Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to Suara Kita nih. We're here with Faiq Airudin. So, pleasure to have a guest like you. So, he's an advocate for sustainable creative industries and he's an
you.
experienced media professional. So, he does this collaboration project with Just Bruneians. Local creatives should know about this. And he has interest in Liverpool Football Club and also contemporary Brunei culture. Okay. So maybe
Yeah.
to start with, maybe you can tell us your story as a digital creator. How did you start, especially in Brunei? Yeah.
I think, okay. Hi, thanks again for having me on Swara Kitani. Um, yeah, I think digital, anything to do with digital space, I mean, you could go back, but I think for me, the journey in Brunei just started from just being on, I think at the time it was mostly on Twitter and Instagram. So I think Instagram we started, I think we're going to have to go back maybe around like 10, not 10 years, maybe 7 or 8 years. So I think that was kind of reach people on Twitter. That's for me personally. But I think on the professional side, if you move on a bit later, I was lucky to be on the multimedia desk at the Brunei Times. So I think from there, it's really a direct connection with kind of putting your work out there. And I think those skills, having a personal interest in digital, and also having a professional interest in digital, is kind of like later on how I think that put those two skills together, and like think of things as a digital creator would. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. So actually, myself, I followed you, yeah, on Twitter like long time ago.
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
there was like time you were working with Brunei Times, I think, and then
Okay.
after that something happened and uh, you became like a yeah, you still creating content for on your Twitter, right? And then
Hmm.
recently you make these IG filters. So
Yeah.
maybe you can explain what are the opportunities here in Brunei for creatives? Like you said, you compiled all that skills as a media guy, and
Hmm.
yeah, how do you find opportunities here in Brunei?
I think now, like as creatives, you can't be only to one thing. I think a long time ago, I think, for example, right, at Dewan Mahasa, they have actually a cartoonist as a job.
Mm,
And I think that's very rare for now in the private sector, just to
mm,
have one role. Like, okay, at this company, you're just director. This can probably think of a few creative companies, but only like 3 or 4. But I think for everybody else, I think everybody that's just started graduating, it's a matter of mixing those skills together. We can't just be just a photographer. We have to be a
mm,
videographer. We have to know about design. We have to know about writing. We have to know about script writing. And I think, yeah, I mean, the question was like, um, also like the question that you sent was about creatives can't make it, but I think it's more like the types of creatives, say, for example, in a more mature market, like even if you see in Singapore, Singapore, they do have like specific roles. Like, okay, there's probably a person that can be working full time as a colorist, But here, you're not just a colorist. You have to probably do the videography as well and
mm,
the editing. So I think the way I see it, creatives can make it, like creative work. I mean, for people that are coming up can make it, but it's a matter of doing all these other things that you you probably won't learn yet, but only when you take on the job you'll learn how to do it. So I think that's my view on that.
all right. And speaking of which, with your background, actually, what's your background on your education background?
Okay, so education wise, like I wasn't actually that when I was at school. I wasn't that like into academics. So like my A levels were graphic design and photography.
Mm,
So I think, and then for my degree, I did something called humanities,
mm,
which is actually more like a writing
mm,
theory thing. And then for my masters, I did photography and urban cultures.
I see.
So I mean, even then, it wasn't until I was like when I started working where I did the hands-on practical work. It was only much later on. So I think that's my background. Like it's more like that's why like my way of approaching is more like research. I heavy research because that's my background, like academic background. I do lots of
Yes.
research before you can come up with a product. Yeah.
So would you say like do creatives in Brunei need that educational background, the good educational background to succeed?
No, no. I think definitely for me, like privileged enough to have the way to go about education. But I mean a lot who are more technically talented than me, who are more able to do creative work faster, who don't have educational background like mine. So I think sometimes if we focus too much on that, I think it's good now. Actually, we have the opportunities here. For example, um, the Mahakarya Institute.
Oh yes.
They do kind of they do filmmaking and Brunei Polytechnic. There's more multimedia skills. So I think it's a good foundation. But in the end, if you go to any shoot in Brunei and you say I have this degree, they won't really. They'll be asked, hey, where did you actually do your? I'm using videography as an example, but I think you can probably think of this as like some other place. Like you want to join an architecture firm or something. They want to see what work you've done. They want to see which drawings you have. So I do think that it's a good basis, but I know that everybody doesn't have the opportunity to actually have the educational background. Only maybe much later you have the opportunity. Like maybe you only realize when you're like already graduated. Hey, actually, I want to be a creative.
Yeah.
Then, and you don't even have. You might be in biology or chemistry. Then even then it doesn't matter because in the end, like they'll say, "What work have you done?" And I think it's good. In a way, it levels everybody out, but also there's not a lot of jobs. Going back to again, there's not a lot of jobs in Brunei where they look at your creative degree and say, okay, we need you to do this work. Seriously, like it's not a really requirement. I think I might be wrong. Yeah. See. Yeah.
So you're saying that they need like maybe a student lah, let's just say starting out, maybe they have a degree in like you said in biology or other other things like other than arts lah. So maybe they want to move into the creative industry. So would you say the portfolio is very important?
Yeah, I think to go back on that, the portfolio is very important. I think a lot of the times, for example, like graduates, people who have graduated, say in the arts, let's say even sketching or something, like not sketching, like say 3D modeling, they might not even have a portfolio, but they already had graduated. But somebody that hasn't graduated with it has a better portfolio. So I think the one with the portfolio would be the one getting the job because they already had the work to do all the things. So I think, to go back on that, I think there's something that maybe Brunei is lacking. Like we have a lot of creatives who don't have a portfolio. That's maybe something we can talk about later, but it's like putting your work together and writing a statement about it. Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the most important agenda, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
The Instagram filters. Yeah. How did you actually? I mean, to think about it, macam bukannya semua orang dipikirkan buat barengan kan? I mean,
Okay.
how did you think of making of these IG filters?
I think for me it was mostly like I like on Snapchat before there used to be a lot of filters, and even that was the first place really, and actually a lot of apps after that. There's filters to play around with your face. I'm trying to think of this other app, Snow. They had filters as well. But I think with those things, I kind of thought it was something fun to play with. So I think that was the main thing. And for me, like going back to being creative, like because my background's already, as I mentioned before, you have to kind of always use new tools. So for me,
Yes.
it's like a new tool. So it's like, okay, I need to learn Illustrator. Okay, I learn Illustrator. I need to learn Photoshop. I need to learn Premiere Pro, Cut, whatever. All these programs. So this is a new program to learn and a new program to understand. So I think that was the other part of it. So one part was trying yourself. Why not try yourself? A new program. Other one was that, and the other thing is also because it was finally open to public. Actually, I was following this because for me, like because I do work in social media as well, I always keep up with what the trends are. So that one I checked like, oh, it seems like actually it was only around end of 2019 they opened it to the public because before it was only open up to brands.
Yeah.
So I was following this news, and then wow, it's actually open to public. Okay, better try to use it while it's a new technology, right? New technology. So with it, there was from the Creative Economy Week, they had actually a workshop for filters by a company in Singapore. I can't remember the name now, but that also helped as well. Yeah, that also helped as well uh, to think about it and how to use it. Yeah.
So actually it's born out of a pure curiosity lah sebenarnya.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
do you so you actually do this for fun? Is a hobby or is it for free? Do you yeah? Can you explain on that? Yeah,
Okay.
basically
Yeah.
my question was that uh you consider making IG filters as hobby or do you get paid for this?
Yeah. So I think from after seeing it, there are opportunities to work with like companies for it. So I think there were ongoing projects. Like some of them I had to halt because of the coronavirus. Because I think it was a matter of the businesses kind of relied on basically the public going to the place. So you can't really have a filter promoting the business. So I think
Yep.
For me as well is an example of when there's a new tool out there, it's always worth you as a creator to try it because there's always a business opportunity there.
Yep.
Like it's not there immediately, but it's very clear that like because of how new it was, how many interactions it gets, and also kind of how fun it is, then there was always a business opportunity for it. So I think, yeah, I mean to expand on that, you see that with other types of because we think of videography as always there, right? But
Yep.
videography was once new. But then as people did it firstly as a hobby, it then became a business based on how much interest it was from it. So I think it should be seen as any new technology that comes up should be seen in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, is there any other Bruneians that you know that make filters?
I know that there's companies that have made it. I don't know whether they are personally. I don't know. I think they outsource it to a company. So I think that the tools are there for people to use because it's free to use. The Spark AR, the program that you use to make filters, are free to use. But I think it's more like, yeah, I mean, individual creators, it's like videographers. It's like, it's whether they want to have their own personal touch on it. It's a different thing. Yeah.
Maybe going back to Just Bruneians, maybe there's some plans with your filters with it.
Well, I think it's something we see in the future, really, a bit. I think it's more like, I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, maybe we can discuss Just Bruneians a bit later because I think there's a more full idea to it. I think that's not just something that will be online. There'll be, it'll be something online, it'll be a website, but we're mostly specifically focusing on the content of it, not just just IG filters or IG posts or polls. It's just more like something else after that. So yeah, we're probably gonna discuss it a
Yeah.
bit more later.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So talking about again about IG filters, going back to that.
Mm.
Do you think from your experience making these IG filters, do you think anyone can make it? Maybe from watching YouTube, so yeah, do they need a course for it?
The course that I did with the creative economy helped, but I think it's not a tool you can pick up readily. It's like learning, I don't know, like learning Photoshop, or learning uh, Adobe Premiere Pro. It's something that, for me, it was because I already had the base understanding of using these programs.
Yeah.
I have a base understanding of animation. I have a base understanding of social media,
Mm.
and that's not from a non-technical skill. That's already a good technical base.
Mm.
Then I move on it to my understanding of Spark AI. So I think it's like uh, the learning curve for somebody who doesn't have that background is super high. But if you have the basis in, it doesn't have to be Adobe. It could be, like the other programs like Corel or something. But if you have those bases of it, then it's possible for you to learn it.
Yep. Uh, okay, you said about the business opportunities in this
Mm.
IG filters, right? So how would you maybe you can explain more on how can you use these filters as a business opportunity? Yeah, how to open it up to make it more like a business opportunity.
I think to go back on it again, it's more like when somebody is making a social media campaign, they think of how many impressions it has, how many
Yeah.
interactions it has. So if you use that as a base unit, then this filter is another way for some company to get impressions, and it's another way for a company to get interactions. So the one way, obviously, is like if they have like photos or videos or caption competitions or comments.
Mm.
I think that's why the other tool is Spark AR.
Mm.
To use AR filters. So
Mm.
all those tools are under market, like could be under marketing and sales. So
Mm.
I think that is a business opportunity for a company to think about
Yeah.
for them to use this tool.
I mean, could you see how many people are using the filters?
Yes, I think Facebook is very good with that. Like Facebook, with all the tools they have for businesses, at the back end they show you how many interactions,
Mm.
how many shares, yeah, per day, etc.
So from your maybe you can share what's the most popular filter from you.
Yeah, so I think the most popular is the first one. I think mostly because of the timing of it. Because I think early of the year, I think yeah, people didn't really think there was one that could be a locally made one, and that was the mood one. Yeah,
Oh yeah, the mood. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so how many could you give? Maybe specific numbers. How many people use it? I mean, I saw you reposting yeah the stories, but yeah, how many actually use it?
Yeah, in terms of impressions, it's like already around of over 1 million. So I
Oh.
think because of the also, it's just another thought. Like sometimes we think of ourselves as a local market, but actually like we share so much, our language with Sabah Sarawak.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that helped give it a broader audience, a broader reach. So I think that's always something to think about for creatives. Like, um, yeah, we share a lot in terms of languages.
Yeah.
Like even for example, like how popular Shafi Zadi's Hari Raya
Ah, yeah,
Hari
the
Raya
Zoom,
video. Yeah, yeah.
Zoom
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, yeah. I think that one is an example of Malaysia likes it, like, and the audience from Singapore likes it, even Philippines. I think it's always an example of creators um, having something that's like, that can also have that broad appeal, not just for Brunei, but also for our region.
I mean, have someone from the outside of Brunei have reached to you about the filters?
Yeah. There's some inquiries from Malaysia about it.
Oh, interesting.
So I think, that's why it's always a good case study for how to use new technology to your advantage to get clients or to make connections abroad. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of like trends, I saw like I think from 10 years ago to 7 years ago, you made this video called YouTube Brunei Rewind or something
Yeah,
similar. Yeah.
yeah.
What do you see YouTube, the, the trend in Brunei for YouTube?
Well, I think the problem for YouTube in Brunei is always monetization.
Yeah.
So I think when it started that long time ago, people actually didn't want to join it, but didn't really see a way of getting an audience, making money. And I think it was actually because companies back then as well maybe didn't see the opportunity to use it as an platform.
Yeah.
So I think that's why when I did that video a while ago, maybe that was maybe the height of the first wave of people using it. But I think, but now you definitely see a positive trend with people like Fasting Bro, actually being able to get sponsors from it, like from DST.
Yeah.
And then, obviously the Shafi Halim, and obviously Ibrahim Kamet is coming back to make videos. Because of all these things coming together, I think especially now, I think for us, we're kind of stuck at home and we have to be creative and try to find some things to do. And I think that's why maybe the trend on YouTube is there. And yeah, but still, it's still an issue of monetization, and also companies not seeing it as the main way to get basically impressions and views. I still think it's super low if you compare it to Instagram and IG. I mean, yeah, I agree. IG, it's too low. I think, like compared, like the highest numbers is like not even hitting 10,000. Whereas on YouTube, on Instagram, you can get like 10,000, 20,000 watching your videos.
Yeah.
Which is not impressive for companies to actually invest in, I think.
Okay, maybe for me myself, I see Instagram is like this mark like a marketplace for adverts. So maybe sometime soon, maybe with maybe RTB is also doing this RTB Go thing, right? Streaming service. Maybe they could go to YouTube. Maybe do you see something like that happening soon?
Mm, I think because the RTB model is different, because they want to stream it from their own services and not necessarily monetization. Monetization is like YouTube, right? Monetization is like through Google adverts here and there. I don't think there's their business model really. So, but I do understand it. Like, if more RTB content was on YouTube, like I think we have to say that there will be definitely more people watching it. But I think currently now, I think they're still digitizing it on RTB Go. But I still, like I'm watching. I think it's quite fast if you're watching the streaming is it's like 720p or higher. So I think I'm pretty satisfied with it. But obviously, it's a selection. I think we just need something more modern on it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah. So talking about YouTube, is Faiq going to be back on YouTube?
I think with the actually people have asked me about the YouTube Rewind and whether it's possible to do another one. But I think I also think of it as like this, also something like with the AR filter, right? It's something that everyone can try, really. Like when I did it, um, there was no real other person really doing it. So I thought, okay, if I try this, maybe somebody else will try it. So there's no, even with the rewind, somebody else might do it, and it's fine. I don't own it. I'm not YouTube, so it's possible for anybody to try this YouTube rewind. But I think when it comes to me on YouTube, I think yeah, if there's an idea there, and then it's possible for me to be back there to create content, to share videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw your video also about on eating on Bruneian foods. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, a lot of people are doing that right now. I mean,
Yeah.
Fasting Bro did that. Uh,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, something to explore lah. So maybe you could explain as a creative. For now, how long have you been a creative? You would say.
Um, I would say professionally, it's been like 5 or 6 years professionally. So I think it is still, I feel, quite a short career still. I
Mm.
think there's still a lot to learn, still a lot to understand, and develop in terms of my long-term future.
Yeah, maybe from your experience, what can you get? What mistakes did you make as starting out as a creative? Maybe someone can learn from that.
Yeah, I think I think it's a good question because I think yeah, I mean we always want to know about what successes you've had, but mistakes are really the one that help you develop. So I think for me it's communication. So I think you sometimes are going to work in a team where not everybody is a creative. So I think if you don't communicate what you're doing and how long it's going to take, and also like also talking about what your process is,
Mm.
then that one is a problem as well. Like somebody that's non-creative might ask, "Can you do this in 1 hour?"
Mm.
You might say yes, but it's not going to be a great product. And you haven't explained why it's going to take longer than an hour. And I think that was a mistake. Maybe, well, I did make. You just say yes, I can do it, and then you get worried that you're not going to fit the timeline because you didn't communicate with their team.
Yeah.
Um, and I think also that links to deadlines. So I think I'm a very I think deadlines are very important, even though it's in a day. The one important thing is deadlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one important thing is deadlines. So if you don't set a deadline, then it's very hard to work towards a goal. So like when I say deadlines, like okay, can you finish this work um, within today? As I mentioned before, then if you say no, then it's okay. You can just shift it to tomorrow.
Mm.
Or if somebody asks, say in a place, can you finish this design by, like, how long can you finish the design? Then you set deadline. Well, I'll set the first draft next week. That's a good deadline as well. And if you don't set those, then people will ask you, where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Mm.
But you already set deadline. So that's related to communication as well. And I think for me as well, it's also like not showing work in process is important, again, to show the process. So like to show, well, this is what work I've done. You see this, what do you think? And that's related to the communication as well. So I think all these things are linked together: the communication, deadline, and progress of work. And then the final thing is, I think, is more technical. Just back up your things, and don't delete anything if you can, because I think if you back it up and you don't delete it, then it's good to have that body of work again for you to look back in. And then I know that a lot of creatives, a lot of people tend to delete.
Yep.
They change username. They say I don't like it anymore, but actually, it's worth keeping because I don't know, like 5 years time, you might look back and actually this is quite good. I want to look back in it. I want to explore this. So I think those two things are those all those things are something mistakes I made. Like not backing at work, deleting things, not showing progress, not setting deadlines, and the lack of communication that I think helped me now become better at working in teams and groups and companies. You know.
So do you right now? Are you employed in a company or are you working as a freelancer? What's it?
Yeah, it's more like freelance, mostly working on marketing and PR for different SMEs and MSMEs.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So from your what would you say your best experience is from being a creative?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to look back on, but I think um, for me it's more like general. It's like what you think of as a career level, so what you think as like a professional level,
Mm.
which is the best experience. Like I mean, I'm talking generally now. Like individual level is when you figure out how to work a program finally, and it works, and then you just figured it out how to do it. I think on career level, if you get, for me, it's like if you get given a big assignment, if you're able to do big events, that's also a highlight. Yeah. So I just talk generally. I don't really. There's quite a lot of things that I am
Maybe your
happy with. Yeah.
biggest accomplishment, maybe, and yeah, for the last 5 years, you have been an creative.
I think I would just go back to maybe accomplishment. I think there's a lot of like like barometers people might have, like, or
Yeah,
maybe it's like when you get the most views or something, or a lot of people know the work. But I think for me, it's just overcoming those two things, individual and career. So I think it was more like being able to, uh, for example, being able to go on an overseas trip for many times, and uh, I think those things were really a big career highlight because it made me overcome a lot of things and gain confidence in the job.
I mean, where did you go to for Brunei Times?
I mean, there are a lot of places, but I would say, like for example, like one of the first assignments was His Majesty's overseas trip to Japan, and I think for me that was a good. Uh, it wasn't. Uh, it was it was an experience that I would take away because all the lessons I learned from it, and I think that for me it was probably one of the best ones because it ensured that you always have the confidence wherever you go to create the best work that you can. And I think for me that I take it away a lot. Like with any kind of work you have, you always have to use the tools that you have to the best of your ability. And no matter where you are, you should be able to produce your best work. Yeah.
Right. Uh, I mean, okay. Let's talk about right now. So you're working with, uh, you're doing this the Just Bruneians, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what do you do for Just Bruneians?
Yeah, so Just Bruneians, I'm actually, yeah. So actually, Just Bruneians, we're back. It's a project actually with by Hanif. So I think she started off with this phrase, and it kind of snowballed into a movement to do about local creatives and their worth, among other things. But I think for me, it was kind of important to uh, also have kind of like a way to like to explain it and show how important it was.
Mm.
So I kind of approached her, and we had a proposal. Like me and my wife, actually Hazira Mazuki, and we're working. And we work together on this Just Bruneians project. So on the back end, she Hazira is the like working on the website,
Mm.
and for me, it's like content. So like content in terms of, say, for example, like copywriting or
Yep.
uh, like just thinking about what's the best way to express like the goals and aims and mission of Just Bruneians. So things from that side, yeah.
Actually, I had this one episode with local creative. If you have heard Matters of Choice,
Yeah, I listened
yeah,
to that. Yeah.
I heard. I was talking with him about creatives, right? So he had encountered this like situation where people do not understand the value of the creatives, the art behind it, the work, the effort behind it. So how would you say Just Bruneians can help the creatives to achieve uh, the so people could understand better?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing because like when I started my career, there was a issue as well. I had heard of from a design company that I joined that people didn't really know what it was worth. People didn't know how much time it took.
Mm.
I think essentially we will continue to have this issue in terms of knowing what something is worth. But I think hopefully through this platform, it's a matter of like thinking of it as like a way to show actually it's not just like a cousin or uncle that is in design. Actually, there's a whole network of people in all areas of your life that's involved in design, and it's not limited to just for example a postcard you have. It's actually a lot of things like the furniture you have in your house or even the architecture. I think for me, how your house is designed, or the games that you buy, that's all linked together. I think I guess one way is to showing how big the network of creatives are. I think also through this platform, we hope to educate as well. Not educate just the public, but educate our creatives ourselves,
Yep.
how to explain ourselves better. I think for to explain how much the work is, how long it took, how much equipment it is, and also to make sure the the base is there, not to lower the base of how much we are asking for, say, video or photography or design. Try to have it as a good level for everybody.
Yep.
I think that's through education. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what you call kira market destroy, something that disrupts the market lah. Especially
Yeah.
when you charge very little for something. So do you think there needs like an official body that controls this thing, or is there
But I think, well, it's an ongoing thing. It's a complicated matter because at the moment, even if we think of our, like a minimum wage, there isn't really a minimum wage. So I think we have to start with just those things first. Um, I mean, using that as an example. But I think when it comes to kind of like setting a minimum for every single type of work, that's far more complex. If you Because you can't compare like somebody that makes candles to somebody that makes glass
yeah
and think of it as a steady wage. Uh, so I think those are the factors. Like there's differences to put it on a technical term. There's a differences. Say for example, if you get a government contract to a private contract, and how much they give and how much the private one gives. So I think when it comes to trying to find this stable amount for everybody, and also who decides, is it somebody that's from the creatives that would decide for it, to decide what the amount is, or is it companies that would decide as a body to decide? I don't think we're there yet because of all the things I mentioned, because we still haven't we still, through various reasons, we don't have a minimum wage. But it's something that through education, through acknowledging each other's worth, that we can come to terms with, come to find a way to understand.
So what do you say the best action for creatives right now to improve the situation, like what they can do? Yeah.
Um, I mean, from the point of view of, let's say, I think it. I know it's very difficult, but it's difficult to at this moment, right? I think given in terms of employment situation, in terms of coronavirus, which has stopped a lot of projects, it's hard to say no to projects. Uh, and maybe I'm talking about generally, like when things more stabilize, when there's more events going on, when there's more things are people want to make more things, then I think it's, for me, my advice maybe to say no to some things, and also to say no, like maybe, or also to look at what the contract is, to look at what is actually said. Say, okay, maybe you have a kawan that wants you to make an artwork. It is possible for you to say, when do you need it by? Are you going to pay me? And I think a lot of people don't want to say, are you being paid for something? And you don't really want to say, and you don't really want to have a contract. So I think, I know it's very difficult to have those two things, a contract and being able to say when you're going to be paid. But I think that's something that can help creatives look for jobs, to look for more legitimate ways and maybe have more value for themselves. But I think that's more general advice for when the times are not so difficult as they are now, because it's very difficult to say no to a job when it comes.
So, what would you would say to a local creative that is starting out and trying to market themselves these days? Yeah, what's your best advice for them?
Yeah, I think, I think I mentioned from the start, it's like when you go back and see your work, is to have that portfolio, whether it's online, whether you printed it out, and to have it there ready for someone to look at. And it doesn't always have to be your best work, but you could also show the work that you have a lot of range in, to show that I can do this program, I can use this program, I can use this program. And I think a lot of companies would look for range of work. I think another advice would be more practically is like not to expect a lot of reward for little work. And it's like, for me, it's your expectation can't be because you work for 1 year, you put enough work for you to be recognized, or you put enough work for you to be good at your job. I think, say for example, you're a photographer, you might have to do 20,000 pictures before you find a good one or two. So I think expectation that it takes a long time and perseverance to be good at something. And yeah, I think for me, if you're not really expected to put that amount of work, then it's very hard to find the results from it. I think the other one is more like to know actually what creative work you're interested in. It could be from Brunei, it could be something you saw online, and to actually learn more about it, to understand. Let's say if you're a musician and you really like, I don't know, EDM, you know the best EDM producers, you know what the best EDM music is. And from there, you have a core of what actually drives you as a creative, is to create the work that you like and the work that you can aspire to. I think it's something to remember if you're creative, that like those are the things that will motivate you when it gets tough, when you have a creative block, or you feel like it's too stressful, when there's too many deadlines coming in, then you know that's something to look forward to, that actually after this I can probably try to make work that I actually do enjoy. Yeah. So I think for me that's some other advice as well.
So in terms of like marketing your work and so on, so what would you say the best way to market your work? Maybe I see a lot of Bruneians have this Instagram portfolio accounts. But
Yeah.
yeah, do, does that actually work?
I think with the portfolio accounts, or it's just the idea of being consistent.
Mm.
Because I do know that a lot of people have portfolio accounts, but sometimes it's unclear what kind of work they do,
Mm.
or maybe they change their name to something productions, and suddenly it's um, something else. I can't think of it, but that's too inconsistent. Like if you want to stick with the name, stick with the name, because it takes a long time for your name to get out there. Like it's not like after 3 months you change your name, because actually somebody might remember your previous name 3 months ago. It's the level of consistency, and I think to state immediately what your products and services are in your bio. Um, I think for me, like a website is not really necessary, but it's another way for you to think about what kind of services you want and what kind of way for you to share what work you do in a different way. Because sometimes I mean, I think sometimes we forget that on not everybody's on Instagram.
Yep.
Not everybody. Also, a lot of people. For me, when I want to search for menu, I don't go on Instagram. I go on Google to search for a menu.
Mm.
So I think it's something for people to think about, that if you want to maybe like stand out from your competitors or something, it's probably worth a website, just to have that other edge, other way for you to share your message. Say you're, I don't know, like a furniture making company, you can probably say, you can check out the IG for something. But actually, our website is where we write all our detail. This is our
Yeah.
story. This is where we're from. So I think it's never to be too stuck on just IG as one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. How about LinkedIn in Brunei? What do you think about it? Can you find? Yeah. What's your experience on it?
Um, I'm not so like I mostly use it just to for looking at opportunities, or uh, seeing more business or career related news. So I haven't really seen it as a place to conduct business, but I'm sure there's also another avenue for people to use. I've seen it being used by companies to share what their activities are. But I think if people were more active, I think it's definitely an avenue for people to use. Yeah, for future.
Okay. How about maybe this another topic, but uh, maybe a question for you to answer. How about podcasting? Like we're doing right now. How many people are doing it in Brunei, and what do you think? Yeah, what do you think of podcasting in Brunei?
I mean, the podcast currently now, I mean, is Progressive, who
Yep.
have a podcast service. Yeah, do you listen to it? Are you familiar with it?
Yeah. Actually, I've been into one of.
On
I've been on
uh,
like interviewed for an event. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's definitely one service on it. I think you need to use the app for it.
Yep.
But in terms of independent ones, yeah, I mean, it's the video podcast format that is the most popular. Creators Club, which is like a Songket Alliance that do have a podcast. Um, and yeah, I'm trying to think of other uh, ones, but yeah, currently I think the format has always been interesting. Like, because yeah, for me, I like listening to podcasts. I like the audio format. You're driving somewhere, you're doing something around the house, cleaning the house, and it's something good to listen to. But and I think especially now, everyone has the tools to create a good podcast,
Yeah.
actually listenable. But yeah, I don't think I'm trying to think of other ones outside of progressive.
I mean, since podcast is uh like you could say new, but yeah, are you going to maybe explore on it? like the IG filter?
Um, I did actually host a podcast before. So I think it's always something that's interesting, like to have a podcast. But I think for me, it was always like the technical side that I could never come up. I think now the tools are better because like if you have more than two guests, you have to kind of control the mixing for all three guests and the sound levels that can sometimes off.
Yep.
Just a technical issue, but I think now it's maybe easy to have two or three guests. Uh, yeah, even like technically, like even Fasting Bro, that's more like it's not really a podcast, but he does talk to them actually quite a long time, like in the car. So I think even that format is interesting. But yeah, obviously as before, like all these formats, yeah, it will be interesting to try even now, but maybe something I'll look again in the future if there's an opportunity.
No. So we're going to the end of the show. So maybe Fike, you have a ending remark for maybe you have other things to you want to say to the audience.
Not the other audience, but I think also like yeah, I think this format is like an interesting format. Like yeah, I'll just say it now. Like I think breaking it up makes it easier for people to follow, understand. I think also your subjects are kind of wide ranging, not just people working on NGOs. I think it's a good, and also yeah,
Wait,
it's a yeah, it's okay.
sorry about that. Okay,
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's a good format to have, but I think yeah, I think um, yeah. To ask you, would you always gonna have it like a Zoom style? I think you started off with just like a sit down interview, right? But I think now you
actually,
can't
yeah,
really.
actually that's one idea, but uh, the reason that I'm doing this Zoom meeting is that one for the is because of the current situation, and then
Yeah.
second is for about the my equipments and the technical aspects lah. So that's what we're lacking, and yeah, the time as well. I'm actually a student currently. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm soon to be graduating. So yeah, that's
Uh,
the reason why.
yeah, as always, you always are limited by what you have technically now, and it kind of is a bit like you always want to maybe try to find the best. Like I'm sure you're looking online. What's the best one to use for it? Obviously, it's not possible now, but
Yep.
I think always the case of using your current tools to do it. Yeah, yeah. But like you're looking for like more episodes. Like how many more episodes of this?
I mean, we're targeting around 50 this 1 year. So
Okay. Wow.
I mean, yeah, how many guests can you get? I mean, you need to push, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's
I
really
mean,
good. That's
yeah,
really
that's
good.
the challenge is finding the people to talk with. So actually, yeah, finding on Instagram on I mean on LinkedIn is where you get uh to see the professionals, and
Yep.
yeah, I'm get we're trying to get used to approaching and inviting guests. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see. I think this type of format, if you keep it up, is really good. Like to have these kinds of conversations, form conversations. So like it's really encouraging to see. I think and the range, yeah, as I mentioned, the range of guests. So yeah, I'm encouraged to see it. Yeah.
Okay, if I mean think we can end this episode right now. Maybe you have any other things for the creatives of or an as an individual you want to say?
I think overall, uh, my my closing thought is more like I think it is kind of a difficult period, say, for example, for creatives. Maybe some companies are not looking to expand their creative team. Some companies are probably not looking to have some marketing or creative products. I think we all need to have some think maybe some of us thinking like the long-term future of this. But I think this for us that are able to, we can think of the a way out of this. And I think a way out of this is to work more together and to collaborate more, to work on projects more, um, also to educate each other more in each other's industries, so that I think also another way is to also buy from each other. So like if you're a maker of something, you can buy from your another maker, so that we can also keep our businesses going. And I think that's another way for us to think about it. So I think my closing thought is more like if you're able to and you're thinking about long term future in this, there are ways to make it into a long term career, even through this difficult time.
Okay, thank you, Pike, for
Right.
that advice and the
Thank
wonderful
you.
conversation. And we're gonna
Yeah.
end this episode soon. So, if you like this episode and want to know more about Pike, so where can people connect with you, Pike?
Really, normal places. Can email me or feel free to follow me or even message me on Instagram if I'm available. You can ask me questions and also to follow can follow Just Bruneians as well,
Mm.
where again hopefully there'll be a platform to educate people more about the creative industry. Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you once again, Pike, for being able to make your time. And yeah, hope you, the audience currently listening to until to the end, likes this episode, and do give a thumbs up and subscribe for more episodes. And yeah, we'll end it right now. Thank you.